Firefighters of Reddit, what's the dumbest person you had to save in a stupid situation? Submitted by Futureace078. A motorist had a bad alternator, and the car died while he was driving. The electric lock control stopped working. We were dispatched for a person trapped in a motor vehicle. On arrival, the advice was given to manually lift the lock knob. You can easily tell the ones who will not survive the first 24 hours of the zombie apocalypse. I was a volunteer firefighter many years back. One summer, after a long period of no rain, two good old boys decide to have a few dozen beers and take their Jeep into a nearby field to go off-roading. Well, approximately 2 feet tall corn stalks that are bone dry wind up getting jammed up into the undercarriage, which, on a 90-plus degree day, turns out to be hot enough to ignite a fire. The owner of the field sees the situation unfolding from their house and calls for fire and police. Given the proximity to my location, I go directly to the scene after hearing the page go out and see these two assholes trying to drive the Jeep faster and faster to put the fire out. Eventually, the engine gives out, but they won't leave the car. I physically had to reach in, burning my arms in the process, since I didn't respond to the station first to get my turnout gear and pull them out. Somehow, they decided that remaining in the car would slow down the flames, and because they thought it was a good idea to continue driving a burning vehicle around a dry field. We now have a significant brush fire and have to call mutual aid from another county to help douse the fire. State police get involved. I have a nice trip to the hospital, and assholes lose their Jeep and the remainder of their booze. Two bikini-clad girls had to be rescued from a swift-moving river in a canoe. Neither girl brought a life vest or a paddle. Had a drunk guy in Antarctica chase a penguin. Penguin stuck his beak through the offending drunk guy's calf. He got sent home, and a report on international treaty breach wound up on some Congress member's desk. Oh McMurdo, how I miss thee. Former fire and rescue firefighter here. Have helped release several dogs and children stuck in the mechanism part of a recliner chair. Also a bird stuck in a tree. Go figure. It wasn't really his fault, but we had an old guy in a nursing home get his balls stuck in a shower chair. I was a Navy corpsman, so this one is probably a bit of a reach, but whatevs. Marine comes to sick call with a seriously beaten up dick. Like, lacerations, bruising. Thing was really fucked up. Asked him what he did and he insisted that what happened was that he had a surprise boner in it. Hit his zipped up pants zipper and basically went all garbage disposal on his junk. Dude would not to drop this narrative no matter how many times we told him that this just doesn't happen. Finally, Doc, the actual MD, comes in and tells him enough of this shit. Yada yada, write him up for malingering. Need the full story. Dude jammed his wiener into the back of a computer tower. According to him, there was an opening back there. Probably because old PC towers in the Navy routinely had shit swapped out and they didn't always cover openings when things were removed. So, because he was a fucking donkey, he stuck his finger in it and felt a light tingling sensation as his skin made contact with something electrical. So he took the next logical step and whipped out his dick and shoved it into the back of this computer. What he did not account for was that the opening had sharp metal edges. But once inside, he got that tingling feeling, and so he felt like he might as well finish the job before he pulled out. Plus, and this is where I had to stop myself from laughing, he felt it was smarter to pull himself out flaccid rather than hard. Taps forehead. This was not a young man. This was not a man without rank. I remember asking a firefighter about this once, and he said a guy who was fucking a woman. Her husband came home, so he jumped out the second-story window buck naked and impaled himself through the upper leg on a fence paling. It was one of those fleur-de-lis ones, so it fucked up his leg pretty badly. They had to cut the paling out of the fence and load him into an ambulance. Dude picked up a metal ring from a hardware store in lieu of paying for an actual cock ring. It got stuck. He went to the hospital. The hospital called the fire department because the Dremel tool turned out to be the right tool for the job. Not me, but Dad was a firefighter in NYC and once responded to a call at a Chinese food restaurant where the owner's walkway was iced over. He apparently didn't speak very good English and maybe misunderstood the job of a fireman. Genuinely don't know. They salted down his front walkway for him and explained that this was 100% not their job. They all had a good laugh and the guy gave them all free egg rolls. PPL always used to ask him questions about crazy calls and he never enjoyed talking about that, so he would always tell that story. Happened in '99, still makes me laugh to this day 20 years later. Austin, TX, HEB, circa 1990. A little girl needs to use the toilet. She locks the door, manages to get onto the toilet and use it all by herself. She's a big girl after all. But the toilet is tall and getting down is scary. Better wait for mom to come help. Except she can't get in because the little idiot locked the door and is too scared of the 5 inches from her feet to the floor and so just sits there crying while sitting on the toilet. The firemen break down the door and the little girl is saved. God damn, I was a stupid kid. **edit. ***Oh boy, this blew up. I'll try to answer questions I was asked and provide clarification so y'all can stop asking. I was really little, guys. Like 3, maybe 4. This was a single-use bathroom, not the one with stalls. So when I locked it, it was an actual door. I don't recall which specific HEB, but probably Riverside or 7th Street. Why didn't they use a key or unscrew the door? Good question. Not something I asked at the time, of course. But when I was older I thought the same things and shrugged it off as someone had to have tried that. It wasn't possible for one reason or another, so they called the firemen. We needed to close the main connection through a forest over the winter because the trees were falling faster on the road than we could remove them due to way too much snow falling. Also, the redirection was more than an hour longer due to the snow. Some cars thought that they would come through but turned around as soon as they saw the trees on the road. One semi also thought he'd get through. He drove up to the trees and called the fire brigade and complained why we didn't remove the trees. As he was calling, a bunch of trees behind him also fell, locking him in. It stood there 1 month before the trees and the snow could get removed by us that at least the semi can back out. We needed another month until the road was free again. Obligatory, not a fireman, but they were most definitely involved. I used to work in a NYC public grammar school over the summers to pay for college back in the 90s. One of the full-time employees was a nice guy but stupid. And I don't mean he was slow or anything. He just did dumb shit because he was careless. One time he loaded up a trailer with like 25 gallons of gas and was driving it back through the main school parking lot. He didn't realize that container cracked open and spilled all 25 gallons in the parking lot. He didn't want to get in trouble, so he thought the best way to get rid of the evidence was to set the gas on fire. He didn't realize that burning gas gives off a lot of black smoke, and a gigantic cloud of black smoke coming from a school generally attracts a lot of attention from first responders. Panicking, he tries to put the flaming lake of gas out by driving over it with his car. The fire department gets there, screaming at him to stop driving his car through flaming gasoline. They finally get the fire out and just screamed at this guy for like 25 minutes. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Me and my dad are both firefighters, and he said one time they went to a house because an elderly Man could not get out of the leather recliner because he had been sitting in it for a week straight, and his wife would just serve him drinks, food, and the guy never got up. He would just get drunk and urinate, defecate himself until he was physically stuck to the chair and they had to cut him out. When I was a volunteer, we had to carry a woman inside the house that passed out in her yard on a mattress after celebrating her weight loss success. She was about 400 pounds and all dead weight. Came in as a medical call, so only 2 people responded. In the end, it took about 5 of us to do it. Medic here ran a call for a lady that slipped on a banana peel in the parking lot. Saw the info in the computer. Thought they were embellishing. She did, in fact, slip on a rotten banana peel. They were not kidding. Fire department and the paramedics had to come to my work one day because some kid didn't know the difference between a swimming pool and a splash pad. There's this artificial waterfall that goes down into a basin that's only about 2 inches deep where there's fountains and stuff for kids to play in. This kid decided to climb up the waterfall. There are multiple signs posted not to do this, and decided to dive off into the water below that again is only 2 inches deep. Luckily the kid landed flat on his face so he survived and avoided being paralyzed, but he was knocked out cold immediately and would have probably drowned, but luckily his mother heard the splat and came running over screaming and pulled him out. Had a 10-year-old overweight boy stuck in one of those child swings that are rubber and have leg holes. Firefighter, paramedic in suburb of PHX, had to transport a guy to the ER because he was constipated. His wife tried to dig it out with a wooden spoon. Spoon got stuck and hurt to move it. Walked in and there's a 250 pounds man, butt naked, lying on his side with a huge wooden spoon stuck halfway up his butt. I'm not a firefighter, but I used to do a lot of disaster response work. Hurricane Floyd, Eastern NC. I had a farmer with a large family that refused to evacuate his house. Stubborn bastard. River had broke loose. Floodwaters were coming up fast, and the police had given up on changing his mind. I drove my truck right up into his yard, rolled down the window and asked him to dress his kids in something orange or bright yellow. He asked me why and I said, so body recovery will be able to distinguish them from all the dead pigs floating around. He told me to fuck off. But 5 minutes later he had the whole family in the vehicle and they got the hell out. Not a firefighter. This happened to my son when he was 6. He was at a Cub Scout meeting which was next door to the fire station. The firefighters had these racks where they'd lay their hoses out to dry. I think the little scouts were climbing on those racks one day and my son's chubby leg slipped between the bars and got stuck. The firefighters had to come use the jaws of life on their own damn racks to free my kid.